Assalamu alaikum. This is your very own Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum for Salam Radio 106.2 FM. Now, I've loved being back here. I'll tell you why. Because last week I did a show, and then I often give a couple of weeks gap. And then this week I'm now presenting a show immediately after the last week one, so it doesn't seem as if I've been away. So it means I haven't taken a break, which is really good. So it's wonderful to be back. This is your very own Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum. This is the Body, Health and Mind Show on Salam Radio 106.2 FM. Again, trying to bring you the best and most up-to-date information in all medical and allied related topic issues. And I always try to bring things that are relevant to our community here in Peterborough because, as you know, Salam Radio is such a great station. It's a station that seeks to build bridges. We have lots of wonderful volunteers in the way of presenters and shows on the radio. And, of course, the team that works behind, those that help push our advertisements, the directors, the wonderful station manager, Serena, who sat there telling me what to do. I bet she's listening to this. Yeah, she's smiling away, looking at me from the window, because Serena needs to be given a shout out because she's so wonderful. She really does. She's little and very delicate, but she makes sure that she manages all this big Salam radio in the background. So I really want to appreciate her. And I know she won't mind me saying so. She is very shy. So when I come out in the break, she'll probably say something to me. Why did you have to say that? But there you go. Anyway, I hope you're all okay. And what I wanted to say to all of you who've received your A-level results this week, I hope that you're not disappointed. And I'll tell you why. It doesn't matter what result you had. At least you tried. And if you've tried, that's good enough. Okay, and not everybody's academic. If you didn't get the results you wanted, not everybody's academic. There are so many options out there, and forgive yourself a little bit because we spoke about this before, didn't we? So forgive yourself a little bit, trust in the process, and the world is your oyster. Go and rule it. So before I tell you a little bit about the show, you can talk to me by calling me and ringing me on 01733 602 133, or you can text us and have a chat with us on WhatsApp, which is 07411 191062. Alternatively, you can watch us on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, X, or Twitch. Now, this was a show that came on very opportunistically, as I have my wonderful guest here with me, who I'm going to be introducing shortly. She is Alia Shirazi, the amazing Alia Shirazi. And she was on the show months ago. I think it was probably about a year or two ago when we were talking about the stigma surrounding drug addiction in the Asian or BAME community, in particular, in ethnic minority communities. And Alia came on and gave us a wonderful overview of the service. And it's a delight to have her here. She works on behalf of CGL, which is Change, Grow, Live, Aspire, which is the local commission service here within the Peterborough area. So I'm going to bid a good evening and assalamu alaikum to Alia. Welcome to the show. How have you been doing?
Good, yeah.
Yes. Well, we met each other, didn't we? On, what was the day now? What was it? Was it Friday? It was a Friday. Yeah. And you started nice and early because I was sat there, you walked in and I saw all the wonderful work that your teams were doing in the various facets that you obviously have. And you're a very, very busy organisation. I can see that. And the good thing that happened was we had a conversation about doing another show, and we decided there and then, when before you've been writing to me emails to get connected, and there's been months where I haven't responded to you, which is very, very bad. So slap on the wrist to myself. But it's been great. Tell me, how have things progressed from when you first came on to now with what we were talking about in terms of finding inroads in the Asian community, Alia?
to more different Asian communities, but we've had a lot of response from the Muslim community. So I've done some BBV testing events with Solutions for Health, where I've been able to just, make that conversation a bit more normal.
BBV stands for?
Bloodborne virus.
Great. That's wonderful.
Yeah. I did a presentation evening as well at Husseini Islamic Centre. So we had one of my colleagues come with me, and we kind of gave a presentation about the service and my colleague's experience of being in the service as well.
Yeah.
And then the mosque themselves gave like an Islamic point of view of addiction and stuff, and it was really well attended. A lot of young people came as well and were asking a lot of questions, so that was really nice to see. And I've started doing a clinic at Thistlemore Medical Centre as well now, which is an ideal location because there's a lot of ethnic minority patients there. So I have a clinic there every Thursday. I've got 3 slots every Thursday, and it just means that people can access the service a bit more easily, because you can just ask your GP to refer you, and that way you don't have to say, I'm going to Aspire. You can just say, I'm going to a doctor's appointment. So it kind of, makes it a bit easier for people that don't really want everyone to know that they're accessing the service.
Yeah, and tell me, do these slots, are they usually full, or how do people book into them? Is it that they just walk in to Thistlemore?
Yeah, so if you're a patient at Thistlemore, you can just ask your GP. I think a lot of times when people mention alcohol or drugs, the GP will kind of automatically suggest that they come to an appointment with me. Coming to the appointment doesn't kind of tie you into treatment either. It could just be if you just want a bit of advice, or you just want to have a chat, see what the service is about. It's no pressure. They're 1 hour slots, and they are normally full, but sometimes there's availability within the next week or 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So GPs can basically refer patients and they book them into your slot?
Yeah.
That's quite easy, isn't it? And do they have to be, obviously they have to be patients that are registered with that particular surgery?
Yeah.
Okay. And with Thistlemore, what have you found that you tend to see a mixture of service users? Are they mainly from the ethnic minority Asian community, or does it vary?
So my slots are exclusive to ethnic minority patients. We do have another member of staff that has like just a general clinic, so anybody can be referred to hers.
I see.
But mine is just for the ethnic minority communities.
Okay. And that, I think that it's something that's quite invaluable. What you said about the fact that they can say to their family members at home that they're actually just going to have a appointment.
Yeah.
It confers them the confidentiality, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I think so. Our service is completely confidential. We don't share information with anyone unless the client gives us consent to share. But walking up to our building, we can't hide that. So if someone knows what the building is, or if they see a text on their phone, sometimes people are kind of put off by that initially. But that's what's great about my project, is I can meet people in the community so that there's less barriers. That's what it's all about, really. It's just overcoming any barrier that someone has to coming into treatment. Yeah,
I guess it's quite important what you say about the location of the building in terms of Aspire. I went there on Friday, and actually, although the people that are in need of that service are aware of the building, I think the general public, it took me a while when I was walking all the way down, and I thought, when is this building going to appear? I mean, I don't want to get lost, and I hope I don't walk past it. But it is very well hidden.
Yeah.
It's not as obvious, in my opinion.
No, there's no flashing neon sign saying drug and alcohol service.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very... I don't think unless you know what it's for, I don't think anyone would guess.
And I think Yeah, it's a very good thing. Just to remind the listeners that we will have an azan playing at 2022. So we will go offline and come back at 20:30, at 8:30. So 22 minutes past, we will go offline. So we've got 12 minutes, which is great because we can do a bit more talking around, some of the things that you have done. Would you like to describe to us a little bit about the presentation that you did at the Husseini Islamic Centre and at the Fazana Medina as well? Did you go there? Where was it?
Not
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of working on making it a thing in more places. Now that we've done one, I think it will be kind of easier
Rolled
to
out to the
snowball
others.
off that. Yeah. Yeah, it was a presentation evening that the mosque advertised themselves. They organised it themselves, but I took my colleague who has lived experience of addiction, and we kind of just gave an overview of the service, the different pathways. My colleague gave a bit of his story. We took our drug boxes, which have like a fake version of all kinds of different substances, it always gets people interested.
I've seen that box as well.
Sometimes people think they're real though.
Yes, I know. Because one of your colleagues, Raja, brought it to Gladka, which is one of our community organisations. I was fascinated by it. I was looking at it and thinking, oh my goodness, that's what that drug looks like. Because in my days when I did medicine and we studied forensic medicine, that's where they taught you about all of this. But actually it was incredibly... It really was an eye-opener. So, so people tend to think, okay, so that's great. Did you have anybody approach you within the mosque to say that they had a problem or they knew of somebody with a problem at all or anything?
I had there was a lot of questions about young people and kind of how addiction starts in young people. And it seemed to be from parents that were concerned that something might be going on with the kids or just kind of what to look out for. No one explicitly said I have a problem or I know someone that does, but a lot of people took pictures of our contact information and said, I'm going to share it in this group chat or to different people that they knew. So that alone was a win for us, I think. But yeah, Rizwan made a point of saying that it's not something that we're South Asians or Muslims are exempt from experiencing, and so we need to make it accessible for them and make it easier to say, actually I would like help with this. And the mosque themselves has said that if someone wanted to come into treatment with us or just have a chat with me, that they would be happy to facilitate that conversation. It would be confidential. So that was really nice to see the mosque themselves encouraging that.
Yeah, and I absolutely, I'd like to commend at this stage the Burton Street Mosque, which is the Husseini Islamic Centre, where Brother Rizwan he's been incredibly very focused on how we work, I think, with the youth, especially from the religious institutional point of view, and also how contemporary and stigma and taboo issues are addressed. So he's very hot on the topic of domestic violence in women or even drug addictions in the youth. And I think that it's really, really helpful because you see an example of a person who's living by example, by wanting to take everyone forward.
Yeah, it's really inspiring to see.
And he's been really great on that. What I wanted to ask you, Alia, is that you obviously have, and I've had many people in the community, and this is why we're having this conversation here. And for those of you that have just joined, I can see we've got a comment here from Lee Taylor. Evening all. Evening, Lee. It's wonderful to see you back here again, and I hope that you're enjoying this programme. For those of you that have just joined, this is a really important show about drug addiction and alcohol addiction within the community and why it needs to be addressed and why we should cast aside that there's going to be any stigma. Yes, I do understand the sensitivities around people feeling ashamed if they have a loved one or a relative who's suffering from a drug addiction. But surely if you had the choice between hiding away and running away from the problem or addressing it, even if it means having open and honest conversations about it, I would always choose the latter. I think that that's incredibly important. That's why we're having this show, that we can talk about it freely, you know. And there were going to be some service users who I think have been treated by the service who were going to come on in the second half of the show. But unfortunately, we haven't been able to make contact with them, and one of them wasn't able to make it today. But we can possibly see in the future if they do come on board. That would be great. Yeah, and give some of their sort of experiences. So we could talk about that in the second half of the show. But right now, I usually come across a lot of what I get in my role is I will get a Facebook Messenger message from somebody who's the loved one of a brother who is addicted to cocaine, or they're dealing, or they're actually using rather than dealing. And the family doesn't know what to do. This person is somebody that doesn't listen to anyone. They often then have so many issues. And when I say to them, look, the Aspire is the service, he won't go. Do you have any advice for those type of people?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that you can't force anyone into recovery. It has to be a choice that they make themselves. Especially we're a voluntary service, so unless the client has asked for a referral from like a GP or another service, we require the client themselves to come and refer themselves. So I think it's really just about making sure the person knows that you're there to support them. But it is really hard if someone's not listening to you and you just want something so bad for them that they maybe don't want for themselves yet. But we do have a support group for affected others. So that's people that are supporting people that are affected by addiction. So that's called Butterflies. It's at our main service when the service is closed. So there's no clients there. It's just partners, parents, friends, anybody that's kind of struggling to support someone in addiction. And it's kind of like their own support group in their own community. And it's people that have a loved one that they're all at different stages in their recovery. And it's I haven't myself been, but I've heard that it's a really supportive and helpful space for people to come to. I think it's just helpful to be around people that understand what you're going through.
And who runs this service? Is it obviously volunteers, but what happens, say, if, for example, a brother or a sister or a mum who is struggling with her son's addiction, for example, would she just end up going there? How is she referred there? How would she make contact?
So you can call the service. I think the number is 895-624.
Okay.
So you can call us to get more information if you don't want to just turn up. But it is run by one of our managers. He's off at the moment, so it's covered by one of my colleagues. So there's a member of staff there. So if it's your first time, like, they'll be happy to meet you at the door and give you an idea of kind of what to expect. But it's kind of the same as our groups for clients, is that it's no pressure. You don't have to share. You can share as much or as little as you want to. It's just sometimes just sitting there and listening to other people, and being able to kind of see that your experience isn't it's not only you that's going through it. I think sometimes that's helpful enough. Yeah,
I get that. And what was the number? Because a lot of people, when I say to them, they talk about drug addiction, and I say, go to Aspire. People say, how do I go to Aspire? How do I access the service? What do I do?
Yeah.
Is it walk in? You just say go to Bridge Street, or do you ring a number?
So the quickest way to go about it is to just come in. That way we can get all of your details in person. We can do your consent forms, and we have an engagement team that will be in the reception area. So if no one can see you for your initial assessment when you come in, they can at least try and figure out an appointment with you. Over the phone, it's kind of harder to do that because we can't book appointments on other people's behalves.
Yeah.
If it's an ethnic minority client that is going to struggle to engage for cultural reasons, maybe if they're Muslim and drinking, or there's a language barrier, so they can't attend groups, things like that, then they can just refer themselves straight to me.
Okay.
So yeah, you can call the main office and ask for Alia as well.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And what are the timings for the lines to be open, or the service to be open for them to walk in?
Yeah, so the service is open. It differs every day. So Monday is 9 till half 9 till half 4. Tuesday is half 9 till half 7.
Ooh.
Wednesday is half 9 till half 4. Thursday is half 9 till half 7, and then Friday is half 9 till 4.
Wow.
So we have time for people that work. The evenings are really
That's really
useful.
very useful.
And I do both the evenings. So,
Do you?
yeah.
Oh, well done, you. That's wonderful. Well, it does seem like we've got 30 seconds until we go to the azan. For those of you that are listening, I've got Alia Shirazi, who is working for CGL Aspire, and has given some very useful information on how to access the service, going as a walk-in. Obviously, you've belonged to an ethnic minority and you're worried about stigma, you ask for Alia. And what we will do after the azan has finished and come back is talk a little bit more about issues that we can address around the Asian community in accessing this service. So, off for the azan. Don't forget to come back.
In the heart of Peterborough, this is Salam Radio.
You're listening to Salam Radio, and it's now time for Maghrib Azan. This Azan is sponsored by UK Islamic Mission, serving humanity since 1962.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم بك نحيا وبك نموت وإليك المصير. رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا.
اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى
Visit our website salamradio.co.uk.
2020 World Buffet is inspired by the best foods from around the world. See our teppanyaki chefs grill your food to order, or choose delicious Indian, Italian, Chinese, Mexican dishes and British favourites, all halal. 2020 World Buffet offers you unlimited food at a set price. Open 7 days for lunch and dinner. Catering, wedding and party services available too. Call 01733 566 320 or visit 2020buffet.co.uk. 2020 World Buffet, 35 New Road, Peterborough, PE1 1FJ.
Where can you get high quality and low prices? Amar Food Store and Halal Meat in Lincoln Road, Triangle is the place to go. Pay us a visit and take advantage of our special offers and great range of products on groceries, vegetables, fruits and halal meat. Also send money to Pakistan absolutely free. We have all top brands at special offers, offer free customer parking and provide a free local delivery service. Amar Food Store and Halal Meat, 613B Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Call us on 01733 687 374. High in quality, low in prices.
Bite into something wonderfully tasty at Big Mouth, 349 Lincoln Road in Peterborough. Eating in, for takeaway or delivery, Big Mouth now have a delicious new menu full of all your favourites. Crispy fried chicken, juicy smashed burgers, finger-licking peri-peri chicken, handmade pizzas, quality doner meat and so much more. So visit the family-friendly Big Mouth restaurant for fantastically fresh food. Call 01733 201020 or visit getbigmouthonline.com.
Are you a savvy shopper searching for the best food deals? Look no further. Adams Cash and Carry can help you save big. We're not just a food wholesaler for takeaways and restaurants. We also welcome household customers at our warehouse in Westwood, Peterborough. Visit our website and enjoy wholesale prices on everything from drinks to flour, rice to burgers and much more. To shop, go online and collect in store. Visit adamscashandcarry.co.uk today to start your savings spree.
At Masters Pharmacy, we put your health and convenience first. We offer free blood pressure checks and blister-packed medication. With our free same-day prescription delivery service, you can have your medication when you need it. We also offer travel vaccinations, including Hajj and Umrah, along with other services to meet all your pharmacy needs. For more information, contact Masters Pharmacy on 01733 567 208 or visit us at 303 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PH.
Whether you visit the Berry Furniture Showroom at 78B Fengate in Peterborough or view and buy online, you'll be amazed at the quality and style you could enjoy in your home. With beds from just £299 and complete 3-2-1 sofa sets from less than £1,000, you'll also be amazed at their wholesale prices too. Plus, there's a 1-year free warranty on sofas and beds, subject to conditions. Find out more, click on Berry, that's BERRE furniture.co.uk or call 01733 300 517.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the Body, Health and Mind Show on Salam Radio 106.2 FM. This is your very own Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum on Salam Radio. And I hope that you've been enjoying this program, because I certainly have been. I'd really like you to join me and talk to me. I can see some questions have already filtered through, which I will hopefully be asking. But I'm joined by the wonderful Alia Shirazi of CGL Aspire. And she is, well, you tell us what you do there. What's your designation?
So I'm a recovery coordinator is what our role is. So I'm on a project by myself because it's fairly new, the Community Connection Project. It's focused on outreach into ethnic minority communities to break down barriers to treatment. But yeah, essentially I'm a recovery coordinator, just with a few more bits and more flexibility, really. So I do a lot of outreach to different services to raise awareness of the service. Obviously, I mentioned I've got my GP clinic, but usually I'm based in the office seeing clients for one-to-one appointments.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And that's great. So community coordinator.
Community connector.
A community connector, which is
Recovery
great.
coordinator.
Recovery coordinator.
Very mouthy.
So Alia is a recovery coordinator, community connector, which is a great role to have. And, you know, you are actually offering an exemplary service to the population here in the city. So really proud of you, Alia, for all that you're doing.
You.
Honestly, I really am. And on that note, I think that it would be really important to ask, from our viewers' point of view, what does recovery mean? What does it mean? You know, there are so many people that will initially come into the service, have the intention to want to get better, but there's a pathway. Then you have heaps of sort of, you know, lack of engagement, non-regularity, DNAs, other issues. What does recovery mean to the person that is sitting and listening to this right now?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people think recovery is just not using the substance anymore, but I see it more as building a life without the substance. So what we kind of focus on in our appointments is helping the client to build their recovery capital. So that is your internal and external resources that you can kind of draw on to build a life in recovery. So, I mean, every worker has a different way of going about things, but it all kind of centers around the same sort of work. For me, I have a lot more flexibility because I have a smaller caseload. So I see my clients for one-to-one appointments, and I will sit and go through each category of recovery capital with them and kind of help them to recognize what resources they have, and then using them as well, not just thinking, okay, I could use this and then kind of forgetting about it. So yeah, I think to me recovery is building a life without the substance, not just focusing on the substance use itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what different facets does that entail when you say that you're building a life around recovery? Would that mean other involvement of organisations? For example, you know, a person who has an addiction, especially within the community, the Muslim community, would obviously have family dynamics involved. Would recovery mean looking at that aspect, and would you help in that case, or?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the issues are. I think it's helpful for the client to really try and work out what the reasons are behind their substance use, because it might start out as you're just doing it for fun. Maybe you've gone to uni, you started drinking, or you use something as a one-off, but then it's become an addiction for a reason. So it's kind of, what are you looking at, what are you not addressing that if we addressed it could help you to move away from the substance. I think it's really looking at the root of the issue and addressing those, and then things kind of fall into place more around that. Because as amazing as our service is, coming to a one-to-one once a month or coming to a group every now and then isn't going to magically fix everything. It's the client has to do the work themselves as well. I can give you all the tools that I know, I can give you all the information that I know, but if you're not doing the work yourself to apply them, then, you know, nothing changes if nothing changes.
That's true. It's an awful lot of willpower, isn't it? Do you find that people that come from the Muslim community often feel isolated because they will come to you? It takes a great deal of personal strength to do so and to acknowledge that they've got a problem, especially young men in our community. And then they come to you. Parents or family might not know that they've got an addiction. What a lonely place to be.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's why coming to the service and kind of sharing it makes you feel less isolated in it, especially seeing other people that are going through it, seeing other people that look like you that are going through it, or just, working with someone that will kind of understand where you're coming from. It definitely helps people feel less isolated, and that's one of the aspects of Recovery Capital that we look at is community, and how it and culture as well, and how it affects our recovery, and how it's actually a really helpful tool. If we find the right way to go about it.
And we had some service users who were going to come on in the second half of the show, and unfortunately, because they were unable to make it, obviously without taking names because patient confidentiality is key over here, would you like to describe what pathways you've seen for those patients that have come in who are Muslim, and what their recovery has been, what it's looked like? What were their motivations? They came in, what were their stories?
So most of my, all by one of my Muslim clients are men. Some of them will come in from a criminal justice pathway. Some of them have self-referred. It really is like an individual thing as to like what their motivation was. But the way that I work, I do the one-to-one sessions with them, and I help them kind of figure out what it is that they want to achieve and how we can do that. And one of the things that I've found is that helping link them in with other services like the Lantern Initiative, which is a Muslim mental health support service. Things like that has been really helpful. So that they get kind of more wraparound support from different services. I think the motivation has been different for everybody that I've worked with. But it all kind of comes down to, I can't do this anymore for whatever reason. Maybe they're just fed up, maybe it's affecting their mental health, maybe it's their physical health, could be leading them into crime, or they've just had enough for whatever reason.
I find that really interesting. I think some of the issues that I've also experienced around young Muslim men, because that's what my exposure has been, those that are addicted, is the fact that many of them will say that we've realised we want to do this and we want to recover. But no sooner do they take a turn that they are enticed by a dealer somewhere, or they're in bad company, such as friends. How do we break that stimulus, so to speak?
That's a good question.
It's one that I ask myself. It'd be good to hear your thoughts on that. I'm sure that you ask yourself that when you see them. Part of you just wants to literally sort of grab them and say, you can't go back to this. Leave that company. But humans are humans, right? Humans need to be validated, and part of having an addiction is knowing that that is your comfort zone in a really weird way.
I think, yeah, we're kind of hardwired for connection, aren't we? So if that's where you're getting your connection, that's where your community is, it's really hard to pull away from that, because you're already feeling isolated in your addiction, and now you have to isolate yourself further to kind of get away from it, but you still have to deal with it. It's a really tricky thing to navigate. Yeah, obviously we can't avoid people bumping into dealers and stuff like that, but this is why we focus on triggers a lot in appointments. We'll help the client identify what their particular trigger is. It could be things like, I've walked past a pub and now I feel like I've got alcohol in my mind. You might not have even noticed, but yeah, it's kind of figuring out patterns of use. A lot of times when clients are new, I'll give them a substance use workbook, like a diary, so they can fill in when they used, how much, what the trigger was, if they noticed one, things like that. And I'll try and get them to also fill in when they don't use and how they navigated that. So then we can kind of work out a pattern and hopefully identify triggers and then safety plans around them. So if I go back to the example of walking past a pub, can you take a different route home? Things that are really simple, but sometimes the trigger is really, really subtle.
Yeah.
So it could be if you have a routine of, when I come home from work, I have a shower, I put my dressing gown on, and then I go outside and have a joint. Your dressing gown might become a trigger. You know, it can be, or it's just become a routine.
Yeah.
So it's kind of figuring out how to build a new routine without the substance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those successful people in our community, in the Muslim community, that have embarked upon a successful pathway. I know you've spoken about what recovery sort of looks like, but what has it been for them that's made them come out? Would you say it's consistency? Is it engagement with the service? What is it, in your opinion, that got them there? It's important to understand that as a professional. So for me, it's always with my patients who I treat, for example, with depression. A lot of them are very scared of the fact that they're going to feel addicted, or they've been told that they'll become addicted to the medication I give them. But I always tell them that they're not alone on this journey and on this pathway. And the secret to their success is, number one, consistency. Number two, knowing that we're going to be working in partnership to see them at the other end. But in your experience with addiction, which is very much on a physical level and an emotional level, what is it that you observe in these service users and clients that will make them successful in their recovery pathway? What do you feel they need to have?
I think it's a combination of things like you said, consistency, engagement with the service. I think just knowing that they're supported and that they've already asked for help once from us, so they can continue to ask for help from us. Having the ability to work out the reasons behind the use so that those things can be addressed as well. A lot of times people start using if they have been struggling with their mental health. So it's kind of figuring out how we can get them the mental health support so that they can come off of the substance. Some people feel like they can't function without it because they're just too depressed or too anxious or whatever it might be. We work with a service called the Dual Diagnosis Outreach Team. So they're part of CPFT, and they work with people that have a mental health issue and a substance use issue. So sometimes people struggle to get support from GPs if they are in active addiction, because the GP would refer them to us and then say, come back when you've reduced or whatever. But yeah, this team, they work with people while they're in addiction, and I think stuff like that's really important because it prepares them for recovery. a lot of times it's really scary for people that have been using to cover up a certain emotion or feeling a certain way, to know that if I stop using, I'm still gonna get those feelings. So it's helping people figure out how to manage the things that they're trying to avoid, essentially.
And I think that's important to highlight. I think I remember speaking to a patient, and they had just embarked upon a successful recovery pathway from their addiction. They'd lost everything in the process. Their family, their life, friends, and had become incredibly isolated and become homeless. They were put up in an accommodation, and they reached out to me because they begged me to do something about expediting, if I could at all, their accommodation, because they were placed in a communal accommodation in which the very same dealers he could see out the windows, walking past back and forth, and that in itself was a killer. I could see this man crumbling before my eyes. That's why adequate mental health support is so important. And there are countless other examples like this as well. And I've often said, when I came to visit the service the other day, and I think everybody agreed about the fact that drug and alcohol addiction used to be managed under mental health services. Here in Peterborough, it's not the same. It's not the case. And that makes life sometimes very difficult, because you will often sometimes have somebody who, say, example, addicted on a substance, and part of their, if they don't get it and they start having psychotic symptoms, is this a side effect of the drug, or is it withdrawal as a result of the drug, or is it a mental health problem? And the minute you speak to the mental health team to tell them that you have somebody who's a risk to themselves and risk to the public, but they've got an addiction, they don't touch them with a barge pole. That can be challenging for Aspire, can't it?
It's definitely a barrier for a lot of clients. A lot of people just say that they just don't feel listened to. And as a result, they don't feel supported, because they're taking that brave step of reaching out. It's really hard to ask for help, even if it's just, even if it's something that seems kind of minor to other people, like asking a GP for help with your anxiety. It's massive. And so if you're taking that step and then not feeling listened to, it really does knock people back, and it can make people feel like giving up. If they're trying and not getting anywhere. So it's definitely really frustrating for our clients, and that's why it's so useful and important for us to be able to say, well, I can refer you to this service, and I know that they've helped so many clients, and just know that they will be supported as much as they can. And if that team doesn't feel like that client is suited to work with them, they'll signpost them to a different service. They won't just say, well, you're not suitable to work with us, so that's it. They'll do what they can to make sure there is some support in place. It's a really, really helpful resource. I'm referring people all the time to them.
That's wonderful. It's good to know that you have that sort of conjunction and partnership with them, because I think that that's very important as well. We have a Mr. Mohammed Abdullah Rizwan, very informative show. Again, Mr. Lee Taylor, evening. Lots of useful information tonight, and enjoying listening. Thank you very much, both of you. I think the messages that are coming out of this show is that, number one, it's not a stigma to ask for help, especially if you are from the Muslim community, in which it is treated as a taboo issue. Let's be very honest about it. And that we have a great service. We have an absolutely great service. We have Alia there. We have other people there who can help you. The other thing is that I often come across, Alia, is people saying to me, oh no, we don't want to go to Aspire, to somebody who is Muslim, because they'll know whoever it is that what family we're from and everything, and they'll tell our families. Do you often get that?
It's definitely a fear that some people have. Some people don't mind. Some people prefer to work with someone from the same community as them because they know that they don't have to explain certain things as much as they might have to someone that has no experience of the community. Some people, their partners or families have been more concerned than the client. But yeah, some people have worried that I might know their family or someone might find out, but the service is completely confidential. I wouldn't dream of telling anybody, but even if I wanted to, I couldn't. It's completely confidential. And also, if you know someone knows your family or something and you don't feel comfortable working with them, you can absolutely request to work with someone else. You can request for your file to be anonymized.
Yeah.
So if you're worried that, for example, if I knew someone's family and they didn't want me to know anything about their recovery, I wouldn't even be able to find them on our system if they were anonymized. So yeah, people absolutely have the right to ask to be hidden from members of staff that they might know, or to request a different worker if they don't feel comfortable.
Okay, that's quite good. Wouldn't that deter them from engagement though, if they know that there's somebody in the building that they know?
Sometimes it can. We do have 2 different buildings. We have 2 offices. So if it's like something that's really that concerning, you can ask to be seen somewhere else. The key worker can try and make sure that I am not around when the client comes in, or whoever's not around. We also have like a recovery hub at Fletton Life Church in their building. We do that on Mondays and Fridays. And sometimes if I'm working there after the hub finishes, I'll see clients there, and it's just normally me and a couple of other members of staff. So yeah, people have options, especially with my role. I can meet people in the community as well.
Yeah.
People, you have options. I wouldn't, if it's a concern, I would say speak to us about it so we can see what we can do. Don't avoid treatment because someone might know who you are. Try and find a way around it, and we would do everything we can to make the client comfortable.
Yeah. I had a question that's popped up actually over here, and it says, I haven't brought my glasses with me, but I can try and read it. I have a younger brother who is addicted to cannabis. What is the recovery period if they were to start to engage with Aspire to complete coming off the medication or the drug?
Okay, yeah. So we don't prescribe for cannabis. So if someone's an opiate client, we can prescribe an opiate substitute medication. We have doctors and nurses at the service. But with cannabis, we don't prescribe for anything. There's no set time that I can really say someone will be off cannabis. It's easier for some people than it is for others. I've had some clients that have completed treatment within 3-4 months.
Oh, good.
I have some that are there that have been in for a couple of years. It's addiction is such an individual. It's as individual as the person that's going through it. So I can't really say for certain. If they come in 3 months, they'll be done. It really depends on the person, and I know it's not not the best answer because people like to hear.
But it's realistic.
Yeah,
I think it gives a level of optimism that if you are absolutely committed and engaged, and you are consistent, there's no reason why you can't set yourself a goal of becoming addiction free by 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, if you, it's all about helping the client to manage their expectations. So I will go based on what the client themselves is telling me, and we'll come up with SMART goals with them. So they're specific, measurable, achievable, I forgot.
What's what?
Realistic and time bound.
Yeah, I forgot the R.
Yeah. So yeah, it's helping the client come up with goals that they think are realistic for them. And yeah.
Well, Alia, I'd really like to thank you for coming on today. I look really forward to hoping that some service users will come forward so that we can interview them on the radio. You and the group at CGL Aspire are doing an absolutely fantastic job, and I'm sure that this city really does appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Yeah, and hopefully for all of you who are here, I hope that you've been able to take something out of this. The thing is that there should be no barriers to treatment, no barriers to addiction, and it should be something, if you have a loved one or you yourself are suffering from an addiction, CGL Aspire, they're located on Bridge Street. Do go and see them. They will help you. And until next time, Assalamu alaikum.
With you 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is Salam Radio.
Craving authentic Desi flavors? Look no further